Imagine trekking across the Arizona Strip in the 1870s. The sun is a weight on your shoulders, and the dust is a permanent layer on your skin. Suddenly, against the scorched red rock, you see it, a stand of green trees and a stone fortress. This isn't a mirage. This is Pipe Spring. Today, we're stepping back into a time when this water was more valuable than gold, and this fort was the heartbeat of a desert empire, the fortress of the high desert. Let's explore the mirage in the desert and hidden history revealed at Pipe Spring National Monument. From the Winsor Castle, a fort built directly over a natural spring, to the incredible story of Arizona's first telegraph station, we go behind the stone walls to see how Mormon pioneers survived the Arizona Strip, discover the Deseret lightning, the massive dairy industry of the 1870s, and complex relationships between settlers and the Kaibab Paiute people. Imagine standing in the middle of one of the most remote, unforgiving stretches of land in North America. No roads, no power lines, no cell service, just wind, rattlesnakes, and an endless sky pressing down on miles of desert scrub. Now imagine being told, this is home. In the 1860s, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints sent settlers into this isolated region as part of Brigham Young's vision to build a self-sustaining kingdom in the West. And in 1870, construction began on what would be known as Winsor Castle, named after Anson Winsor, the man placed in charge of running the settlement. Now, don't let that name fool you. This wasn't a castle in any romantic sense. When the Mormon pioneers arrived here, they didn't just build near the water, they built on it. It was a fortress, intentionally designed to be one. The pine timbers were freighted in from Mount Trumbull that lies many miles to the south. The walls were built from rough-cut sandstone blocks quarried locally. They were thick enough to stop bullets. The structure enclosed a small courtyard so that even in the direst circumstances, the people inside would have access to the 56-degree spring water flowing beneath the floor. Think about that for a moment. They built the fort around the water. Every decision here was survival. Completed in 1872, it served as a tithe ranch for the LDS Church. Imagine being a young woman here, perhaps one of Anson Windsor's family. Your day starts at 4 a.m. The air inside these thick sandstone walls is cool, a stark contrast to the heat outside. The sound you hear constantly, the trickle of the spring. By building the fort directly over the water source, the settlers ensured that even during a siege, they would never go thirsty. That's brilliant. But life here wasn't about battles. It was about industry. This was a massive dairy. Thousands of pounds of cheese and butter were produced here annually to feed the workers building the St. George Temple. The women and children who lived here spent their days in these walls doing work that was relentless, churning butter, making cheese, weaving, cooking over open fires in what passed for a kitchen. The dairy operation at Pipe Spring was no small thing. At its peak, this fort was producing enormous quantities of butter and cheese, sent hundreds of miles also to Salt Lake City to help feed a growing population and tithe to the church. The women here didn't just survive this place, they ran it, while the men drove cattle across the Arizona Strip, which was a brutal job in its own right. It was largely the women managing the dairy, preserving the food, and keeping the household running under conditions that would test the most resilient among us today. And they did it all in long skirts, in desert heat, miles from the nearest neighbor. Incidentally, the spring got its unusual name, legend has it, from a sharpshooter who was said to have shot the bottom of a pipe placed over the spring's opening from a considerable distance. Whether that story is entirely true or just the kind of tale that sticks to a place, it fits, because Pipe Spring has always been a place of remarkable things happening in unremarkable-looking surroundings. Now look at these wires. In the 1870s, Pipe Spring was one of the most isolated places in North America. Yet it was connected to the world by the Deseret Telegraph, sometimes called the Deseret Lightning. And now, here is where Pipe Spring's story takes a turn that most visitors don't fully appreciate until they hear it. In 1871, a telegraph line was run to Pipe Spring, and what makes this remarkable isn't just that it existed, it's why it existed and what it connected. Brigham Young, the president of the church and the de facto political leader of Utah Territory, understood that communication was power. While Pipe Spring was remote, it sat on a critical route between Utah and the expanding settlements of the Arizona Territory. A telegraph line connecting St. George, Utah to Pipe Spring and eventually further south meant that Brigham Young could communicate across vast distances almost instantaneously at a time when most of the frontier operated on horseback, delivered messages that could take days or weeks. Imagine sitting in this stone fort in the middle of of the Arizona desert in 1871 and receiving a message from Salt Lake City within minutes? To the people of the Arizona Strip, that telegraph wasn't just technology. It was a lifeline, a connection to the church leadership, to family, to the outside world. And it was a reminder that even here, even in this remote, windswept corner of the continent, they weren't forgotten. The telegraph operator at Pipe Spring held what was arguably one of the most important communication posts in the entire region. Imagine Eliza Llewellyn Stewart, the first operator. While the men were tending cattle in the silence of the strip, she sat at this desk. The rhythmic click-clack of the key wasn't just data. It was the voice of friends and family in Salt Lake City. The Mormons used a specific Deseret alphabet for a time, but the telegraph stuck to standard Morse code. It was used to warn of incoming raids, but more often it was used to pulse the heartbeat of the community, announcing births, deaths, and the progress of the temple. Pipe Spring was the first telegraph station in all of Arizona territory. There is something quietly extraordinary about standing next to the telegraph equipment today, because you realize you're standing at what was once a nerve center, a place where the ancient world, stone walls, hand-churned butter, cattle drives, existed side by side with the cutting edge of the 19th century technology. But the story didn't start with the fort, for this place possesses a multi-layered history. For centuries, the Kaibab Paiute people called this Mu-Pa, or Mossy Spring. To the settlers, it was a resource to be fenced. To the Paiutes, it was a sacred ancestral gift. And as we walk around these grounds, you can feel the tension, the struggle between a new way of life and an ancient one. The fort stands as a symbol of protection for some and a symbol of displacement for others. The Kaibab Paiute people lived on and around this land for centuries, drawn to the one thing that made survival possible in this arid landscape: water. It would have been incomplete to tell this story without acknowledging the Kaibab band of the Paiute Indians, who never truly left. The Kaibab Paiute Reservation today borders the monument, and in fact, this monument is co-managed with the tribe. The first time we went there, we were in our motorhome, and they were kind enough to let us park in their parking lot just down from the entrance of the park. On our second visit, we were staying at an RV park in Kanab and drove our car. Their ancestors had gathered at this spring long before the fort walls rose from the desert floor. The arrival of the Mormon settlers fundamentally disrupted that relationship with the land and the water. It's a complicated story and a layered one. Pipe Spring National Monument openly shares both stories at the same time. Pipe Spring is more than just stone and mortar. It's a monument to human persistence. It's a window into a life most of us can barely imagine. Today, Pipe sits quietly beneath the same enormous sky it always has. The cattle are gone. The telegraph is silent. The women who churned butter in those narrow rooms are long gone. But this spring still flows. Cool, clear water still pushes up through the stone, just as it did when the Paiute gathered here, just as it did when the Mormon pioneers stacked stone on stone to build a life in one of the most unforgiving places in America. Whether you come for the history of the frontier, the technical marvel of the telegraph to see the long line of juniper poles set 70 feet apart, or the quiet beauty of the desert, you leave realizing that in the West, water is and always has been life. Some places hold history the way stone holds heat, slowly, deeply, long after the sun has moved on. Pipe Spring is one of those places, and if you stand still long enough, you can feel it. I hope you will be intent on making a stop at Pipe Spring National Monument, tucked into the Arizona Strip. I think it might be one of the most underrated historic sites in the entire national park system. Be sure to check the website for the times of the tours inside Winsor Castle. You really don't want to show up and the doors are locked. The park is open year-round. Don't forget to get your passport book stamped. This rugged slice of American Southwest that sits between the Grand Canyon and the Utah border can be better located for you to spin off to explore the hidden treasures on both sides of this picture-perfect geographic locale. Ugly shoes on the ground. Unclassic road trip. Thank you for watching, and I totally encourage you to take the crazy, unrestrained adventure to Toro Week. The link is on your screen and in the description below. Oh yeah, tell a friend about my channel and share this video with someone in your contact list that loves history.